Lisa Morgan sat alone in her small room aboard the Earthship New Horizon. The metal walls around her hummed with the sound of engines pushing them toward what might be humanity's last chance for peace. On the table before her was a heavy metal case. Inside that case was something that could destroy an entire city. But it had been turned off long ago. She stared at the case and thought about her brother Danny. 3 years ago, the insect-like aliens called Zephyrians had attacked the human colony of New Sydney. Danny had been there with his wife and 2 young children. When the alien ships came down from the sky like angry metal wasps, they burned everything. No one survived. That was how the war started. The Zephyrians said humans were dangerous and had to be stopped. They said humans were liars who could not be trusted. Every time Earth tried to make peace, the aliens refused to listen. They just kept attacking, taking one human world after another with their advanced ships and weapons. Now, Lisa was flying toward a meeting that everyone said would end with her death. The Zephyrians had agreed to talk, but only with one human. That human had to come alone and without weapons to their sacred talking place on a distant moon. Most people thought it was a trap. Admiral Jake Williams had chosen Lisa for this impossible job. He had been her teacher years ago when she studied alien cultures at the Earth Military Academy. Back then, she wrote papers about how different alien species thought and acted. She believed that understanding aliens was the key to peace. Most people thought she was wrong. The door to her room opened and Commander Paul Carter stepped inside. Paul was the pilot who would fly her to the meeting place. He was a good man, but he did not believe talking would work. "We'll reach the neutral zone in 6 hours, Paul said. "Are you sure about this, Lisa? The Zephyrians have killed thousands of our people. Why would they listen to you now?" Lisa touched the metal case. "Because this time I'm bringing something they've never seen before." Paul looked at the case with worry. "Admiral Williams told me what's in there. A nuclear bomb that doesn't work anymore. How is that supposed to help?" "The Zephyrians think humans are liars and cheaters," Lisa said. "They believe we always try to trick them. But what if I show them something completely honest? What if I show them our worst weapon and explain why we stopped using it?" Paul shook his head. "They'll just think it's another trick." "Maybe," Lisa said. "But I've studied their culture for 10 years. The Zephyrians have something called the Honor Code. They hate lies more than anything else. If I can prove that humans can tell the truth, even about terrible things, maybe they'll listen." She remembered the first time she read about Zephyrian society. The insect aliens lived in huge groups where everyone shared thoughts and feelings. They made decisions together and never lied to each other. When they met humans, they expected the same honesty. Instead, human diplomats tried to protect information and hide the locations of colonies. The Zephyrians saw this as the worst kind of dishonesty. Paul sat down across from her. "Tell me about this honor code." Lisa opened her computer and showed him pictures of Zephyrian writing. The alien symbols looked like complex geometric patterns. "Every Zephyrian learns these rules as a child. Rule 1 is that strength without honor is meaningless. Rule 2 is that lies poison the mind like disease. Rule 3 is that enemies who show true courage deserve respect." "So you think showing them an old bomb proves we have courage?" Paul said. "Not just any bomb," Lisa replied. "This nuclear warhead came from the archives on Earth. It's one of the weapons we used against ourselves hundreds of years ago. We built these things to destroy our enemies, but then we realized they were too terrible to use. We turned them all off and promised never to build more." Paul was quiet for a long moment. "And you think the Zephyrians will care about ancient human history?" "I think they'll care that we had the power to destroy worlds but chose not to use it," Lisa said. "Number other species they've met ever gave up their strongest weapons." The ship's communication system crackled to life. "Attention all crew. We are approaching the edge of Zephyrian space. Prepare for contact." Lisa felt her heart begin to beat faster. Through the small window in her room, she could see stars scattered across the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, alien ships were waiting. In a few hours, she would be inside one of those ships. Surrounded by creatures that wanted to destroy her entire species, she picked up the metal case and held it in her lap. The bomb inside was small enough to fit in her hands, but it contained enough power to level a mountain. Her own people had built it decades ago during Earth's last Great War. Back then, humans thought nuclear weapons would make them safe. Instead, they almost destroyed themselves. "Lisa," Paul said softly. "What? If this doesn't work? What if they kill you as soon as you get there?" She looked at him and tried to smile. "Then you fly back to Earth and tell Admiral Williams that we tried something different. Maybe the next person will find a better way." "There might not be a next person," Paul said. "If this fails, the Zephyrians will attack Earth directly. Our defenses won't hold." Lisa knew he was right. Earth's military was strong, but the Zephyrians had better technology and more ships. Without the outer colonies to slow them down, the aliens could reach Earth in weeks. Billions of people would die. The communication system spoke again. "Contact established." Zephyrian vessel approaching off the starboard bow. Through her window, Lisa saw a new star that grew brighter as she watched. Soon, it resolved into the shape of a massive alien ship. The Zephyrian vessel looked like it was grown rather than built, with smooth curves and a surface that seemed to pulse with its own light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "That's our ride," Paul said. Lisa stood up and checked her equipment one more time. She wore a simple blue uniform with no weapons or military insignia. The only thing she carried was the metal case. Everything depended on what happened in the next few hours. "Take me to the docking bay," she said as they walked through the corridors of the New Horizon. Lisa thought about all the people counting on her. Not just the crew of this ship, but everyone on Earth and all the human colonies still fighting for survival. She was just one person carrying a deactivated bomb and a desperate hope for peace. The future of humanity was in her hands. The Zephyrian transport beam felt like being pulled through thick liquid. Lisa's body tingled as blue energy surrounded her and lifted her from the human ship. When the sensation stopped, she found herself standing in a circular chamber aboard the alien vessel. The walls were covered in a substance that looked like black glass but felt warm to the touch. Two Zephyrians waited for her. They stood on 4 legs each, with 2 arms that ended in hands with too many fingers. Their heads were triangular with large compound eyes that reflected light like broken mirrors. When they moved, Lisa could hear the soft clicking of their exoskeleton plates rubbing together. The larger alien stepped forward and spoke in perfect English, though its voice sounded like music played through broken speakers. "I am Hive Commander Zekthis. You will be searched for weapons and deception devices." Lisa held up the metal case. "I carry one item. It contains no active weapons." The second alien, smaller than Zekthis, moved around Lisa in a circle. Its eyes never stopped moving, scanning every part of her body. "I am Drone Captain Vexamer. Why do humans always bring containers to meetings? What trickery do you hide?" "No trickery," Lisa said. "Only truth." Vexamer produced a device that hummed as it passed over Lisa's body in the case. After several minutes, it stepped back. No energy weapons, no explosive devices, no communication equipment. "The container holds metal and chemical components, but nothing active." Zekthis tilted its head in a way that reminded Lisa of a curious bird. "You may keep your container. Follow us to the preparation chamber." They walked through corridors that curved like the inside of a seashell. The walls pulsed with soft bioluminescent light that changed color as they passed. Lisa realized the ship was partly alive, grown rather than built. Everything felt organic and alien. "Your species confuses us," Zekthis said as they walked. "You fight with determination, but your diplomats speak in riddles. You claim to want peace, but you hide your true intentions." Lisa considered her words carefully. "We hide things because we are afraid. When someone is stronger than you, hiding seems safer than truth." "Fear is understandable," Vexamer said with sharp clicks in its voice. "But deception is not. 3 years ago, your diplomats on terra firma told us lies about territory boundaries. They showed us false maps and made false claims. This proved humans cannot be trusted. What if I told you why they lied? Lisa asked. Both aliens stopped, walking, their compound eyes focused on her with unsettling intensity. You admit your species are liars, Zekthis said. I admit we are afraid, Lisa replied. The diplomats lied because they were trying to protect human families. The false maps were meant to hide the locations of our colony so you couldn't attack them. Veximer made a sound like grinding metal. Lies are lies regardless of motivation. Yes, Lisa said, but the motivation matters. They didn't lie to cheat you or gain advantage. They lied because they were parents and grandparents trying to save their children. The aliens exchanged looks, their compound eyes shifting in patterns Lisa couldn't understand. Then they continued walking without speaking. The preparation chamber was larger than the transport room, with walls covered in alien symbols that seemed to move when Lisa wasn't looking directly at them. In the center was a device that looked like a metal flower with petals made of light. This will create an environment suit for the negotiation chamber, Zekthis explained. The meeting place has no atmosphere. Lisa stepped into the device and felt energy wrap around her like a second skin. When it finished, she could breathe normally but felt lighter somehow. Where are we going? The moon of Kepler 442b, Veximer said. It is a sacred place where our ancestors first learned to speak with other species. Only the most important negotiations happen there. How many species have you negotiated with? Lisa asked. Zekthis was quiet for a long moment. 17. Different species have requested negotiation rights in the past 1,000 years. What happened to them? 16 chose deception over truth, Veximer said with clicking sounds that might have been satisfaction. They attempted to manipulate us with false promises and hidden agendas. We ended those negotiations permanently. Lisa felt cold despite the warmth of her energy suit. And the 17th. The Korathi were honest but weak, Zekthis said. They spoke truth but had nothing of value to offer. We allowed them to surrender their territory and relocate to distant worlds. So, honesty is not enough, Lisa said. Honesty without strength is meaningless, both aliens said at the same time, their voices creating an eerie harmony. This is the first law of the Honor Code. The ship shuddered slightly as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Through a transparent section of wall, Lisa could see a small gray moon hanging against a backdrop of stars. Its surface was covered in geometric patterns that could only be artificial. The sacred chamber was built by our ancestors 5,000 years ago, Zekthis explained. It amplifies truth and punishes deception. Those who lie within its walls feel pain that increases until they speak honestly or die. Lisa gripped her metal case tighter. And if I tell the truth, then we will listen, Zekthis said. Whether we accept what you say depends on the value of your words. They descended to the moon's surface in a small transport that moved without sound or vibration. The landing pad was a circle of polished stone surrounded by towering alien architecture. The negotiation chamber sat at the center like a crystal dome filled with shifting light. As they approached the chamber, Lisa saw more Zephyrian ships landing. Nearby, armed guards emerged and took positions around the building. Each guard carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. You brought an army, Lisa observed. Honor requires witnesses, Veximer said. If you attempt deception, they will record your failure for future generations. Inside the chamber, the walls were transparent crystal that showed the star-filled sky above. A single table sat in the center with 2 chairs, one sized for humans and one for Zephyrians. The air itself seemed to vibrate with alien technology. Zekthis took its seat while guards positioned themselves around the room's perimeter. Lisa sat across from the alien commander and placed her metal case on the table between them. State your name and purpose, Zekthis said formally. I am Captain Lisa Morgan of Earth, Lisa replied. I come to speak truth about humanity and request consideration for peace. Veximer moved to stand beside Zekthis. The human species has been evaluated and found unworthy of coexistence. Your expansion into disputed space, your attacks on our scout vessels, And your attempted deception during terra firma negotiations prove you cannot be trusted. Furthermore, Zekthis continued, our analysis indicates humans will continue expanding aggressively until they threaten our core territories. Prevention requires elimination of the threat at its source. Lisa felt the weight of their words. This wasn't really a negotiation. It was a formal sentencing. You've already decided to destroy us. We have decided to offer terms, Zekthis said. Surrender all outer colonies and restrict your species to your home system. Accept permanent monitoring of your activities. These terms allow human survival. And if we refuse? Complete elimination within 6 months, Veximer said with clicking satisfaction. Lisa looked around the crystal chamber at the armed guards watching her every movement. This was the moment everything depended on. She reached for the latches on her metal case. Before you decide our fate, she said, I want to show you something no other species has ever brought to this chamber. The guards tensed and their weapons hummed louder. Zekthis raised one hand to stop them from firing. What could you possibly show us that would change our evaluation of your species? The alien commander asked. Lisa opened the case. The metal case opened with a soft click that seemed loud in the crystal chamber. Inside, nestled in protective foam, was a cylindrical device about the size of a large bottle. Its surface was dark metal covered in warning symbols and technical markings. Small lights along its side glowed red, indicating its deactivated state. Zekthis leaned forward, compound eyes focusing on the device. What is this object? This is a Mark VII thermonuclear warhead, Lisa said calmly. It was built by humans 200 years ago during our last Great War. It has enough power to destroy this entire moon. The Zephyrian guards immediately raised, their weapons' energy cells whining as they charged. Veximer jumped back from the table, clicking sounds of alarm filling the chamber. The readings show no active energy signature, Zekthis said, but its voice carried new tension. Is this device functional? No, Lisa replied. It was permanently deactivated 50 years ago along with every other nuclear weapon in human space. I brought it here to tell you a story about my species that no one else knows. Veximer moved closer again, keeping its weapon ready. You threaten us with an inactive bomb. This proves human deception and madness. I'm not threatening anyone, Lisa said. She touched a control on the warhead side and a holographic display activated above the table. I want to show you what this weapon can do and why we stopped using them. The hologram showed a city from Earth's past. Buildings stretched to the horizon under a blue sky with white clouds. People moved through streets and parks, going about their normal lives. It looked peaceful and beautiful. This was Hiroshima, a city on Earth during our nuclear age, Lisa explained. Watch what happens when one of these weapons is used. The hologram changed. A bright flash filled the display, brighter than the sun. When the light faded, the city was gone. In its place was a wasteland of twisted metal and burning ruins. Where hundreds of thousands of people had lived, now there was only destruction and death. Both aliens stared at the display without moving. The chamber was completely silent except for the hum of technology in the walls. Your species did this to themselves, Zekthis said finally. Twice, Lisa said. We dropped nuclear bombs on 2 of our own cities. We killed over 200,000 humans to end a war between different groups of our species. Veximer made harsh clicking sounds. You murdered your own kind with weapons of mass destruction. Yes, Lisa said simply. And then we learned from our mistake. She changed the holographic display to show images of nuclear weapons being dismantled. Humans in protective suits carefully took apart bombs and missiles, extracting radioactive materials for safe disposal. The scene showed years of work across dozens of facilities. After we saw what nuclear weapons could do, we were horrified, Lisa continued. We realized we had created something too terrible to use, even against our worst enemies, so we made a choice. We took apart every nuclear warhead in human space and promised never to build more. Zekthis tilted its head. But you kept the knowledge to build them? We kept the knowledge but lost the will to use it, Lisa said. Do you understand what that means? The alien commander was quiet for a long moment, its compound eyes reflecting the holographic images still playing above the table. You possessed weapons capable of destroying worlds but chose not to use them. Even when we were losing this war, Lisa said. Even when you destroyed our colonies and killed our people, we never considered rebuilding nuclear weapons. We had the power to turn your worlds into burning wastelands, but we chose not to. Vexamer stepped forward aggressively. You expect us to believe humans suddenly became peaceful after using these terrible weapons. I expect you to understand that wisdom sometimes comes through suffering, Lisa replied. We learned that some victories cost too much. Some weapons are too horrible to use, even when you're afraid. She activated another section of the holographic display. This time it showed the aftermath of nuclear war, children born with deformities, land poisoned for generations, survivors dying slowly from radiation sickness. The images were difficult to watch. These weapons don't just destroy cities, Lisa said. They poison everything they touch for decades. They kill the innocent along with the guilty. They make winners into monsters. Zekthis studied the images. Carefully, your terra firma diplomats. When they lied about colony locations, they were trying to protect civilian populations from this kind of destruction. They were trying to protect their children from any kind of destruction, Lisa said. They knew we couldn't defend our colonies against your superior technology. Lying about locations was the only way they could think of to save lives. Still deception? Vexamer insisted. Still dishonor? Yes, Lisa agreed, but deception born from love, not greed. Deception from parents trying to save their families, not from politicians trying to gain territory. She leaned forward across the table. That's what I'm here to tell you about humans. We're not perfect. We lie sometimes when we're afraid. We make mistakes and hurt each other. But we learn from our worst moments and try to become better. The holographic display changed again to show Earth as it appeared now. Green continents under swirling white clouds, space stations in orbit, ships moving between the planets. It looked healthy and alive. This is our world today, Lisa said. We took the lessons from nuclear war and used them to build something better. We learned that strength without wisdom leads to destruction. We learned that the greatest victory is finding a way to avoid fighting. Zekthis stood up from its chair and walked around the table to examine the deactivated warhead more closely. Its multiple hands traced the warning symbols on the device's surface. You bring this as proof of human wisdom, the alien said. I bring this as proof of human honesty, Lisa replied. Every other species you've met has tried to hide their worst aspects and show only their strengths. I'm showing you our greatest shame and our greatest lesson. The honor code states that strength without honor is meaningless, Zekthis said slowly. But your species chose honor over strength when you abandoned these weapons, Vexamer made agitated clicking sounds. This is manipulation. Humans seek to confuse us with stories of past redemption. No, Lisa said firmly. Humans seek to offer you something no other species has offered. Partnership with beings who have learned to control their own destructive impulses. She stood up and faced both aliens directly. You judge us for expanding into space, but every species expands when it grows. You judge us for defending ourselves when attacked, but every species fights for survival. You judge us for lying to protect our families, but every parent would do the same. What makes humans different, she continued, is that we had the power to destroy you completely and we chose not to use it. We could have built nuclear missiles and fired them at your worlds. We could have poisoned your space with radiation and made it uninhabitable for generations. Instead, we kept fighting with conventional weapons and kept hoping for peace. The chamber fell silent again. Even the guards seemed to be listening intently. The holographic display still showed images of Earth, peaceful and green in the starlight. What do you want from us? Zekthis asked finally. A chance, Lisa said. Not surrender, not dominance, just a chance to prove that two intelligent species can share the galaxy without destroying each other. Vexamer stepped closer to the table. And if we refuse? Lisa looked at the deactivated warhead sitting between them. Then you'll have eliminated the only species you've ever met that chose wisdom over weapons. You'll have destroyed beings who could have been your greatest allies. She paused and met the alien commander's compound gaze. And you'll have to live with the knowledge that you became the very thing you claimed to fight against. Destroyers of worlds, killers of innocence, monsters who chose strength over honor. The weight of her words hung in the crystal chamber like a challenge waiting to be answered. Zekthis moved away from the table and began walking in slow circles around the crystal chamber. Its compound eyes shifted between different focal points as it thought. Vexamer remained near the deactivated warhead, weapon still ready but lowered. Slightly. Your words carry weight, Zekthis said finally. But words alone cannot undo 3 years of conflict. Too much blood has been spilled on both sides. Lisa nodded. I understand. Trust has to be earned, not just spoken. The honor code demands proof of worthiness, the alien commander continued. Strength, wisdom, courage, sacrifice, and truth must all be demonstrated before peace can be considered. Vexamer made sharp clicking sounds. The human speaks of honor, but her species has shown none in battle. They use guerrilla tactics and surprise attacks. They avoid direct confrontation like cowards. We fight the way smaller forces must fight against larger ones, Lisa replied. When you have superior numbers and technology, direct confrontation is suicide, not courage. Yet you came here alone to face certain death, Zekthis observed. This shows personal courage, but does it represent your species? Lisa thought about all the humans she knew. Soldiers who fought impossible battles to protect colonies. Scientists who worked desperately to find diplomatic solutions. Families who endured loss and kept hoping for peace. My species has many kinds of courage. I'm just one example. Zekthis stopped walking and faced her directly. There is an ancient tradition among our people. When disputes cannot be resolved through normal negotiation, we invoke the trial by combat of civilizations. The phrase sent chills through Lisa even though she didn't understand what it meant. What kind of trial? 5 challenges that test the qualities we value most, Zekthis explained. Combat to test strength and skill. Strategy to test intelligence and planning. Survival to test adaptation and endurance. Sacrifice to test commitment and honor. Truth to test honesty and wisdom. Vexamer stepped forward aggressively. No species has invoked this right in over 1,000 years. No species has ever invoked it against the Empire itself. What are the terms? Lisa asked. Each side selects champions to represent their civilization. Zekthis said. The challenges take place on neutral worlds under ancient protocols. Winners are determined by a council of observers from both sides. And if humanity wins, the Zephyrian Empire withdraws from all human space and establishes formal borders. Trade and cultural exchange would be negotiated separately. Your species would be recognized as equals. Lisa's heart raced. This was better than anything Earth's leaders had hoped for. And if we lose? Unconditional surrender, Vexamer said with satisfaction. Permanent occupation of human worlds. Your species becomes a client state of the Empire. But we would survive, Lisa said. Those who submit completely and accept Zephyrian guidance would be allowed to live. Zekthis confirmed. Lisa stared at the deactivated warhead on the table. Humanity had given up weapons of mass destruction in exchange for wisdom. Now she was being offered a chance to gamble everything on that wisdom. I don't have authority to accept such terms, she said. I would need to return to Earth and consult with our leaders. Vexamer made harsh clicking sounds. More delays, more time for humans to prepare deceptions and tricks? Actually, Zekthis said thoughtfully, the trial proposal must be presented to our high command for approval. Even I cannot authorize such an ancient ritual without consensus. Lisa felt a spark of hope. Your people have doubts about this war, too. Some question whether total elimination is necessary, Zekthis admitted. Your demonstration today has raised new questions about human nature. The alien commander activated a communication device on its wrist and spoke in the musical Zephyrian language. The conversation lasted several minutes with multiple voices responding from what sounded like different locations. When it finished, Zekthis turned back to Lisa. The High Command has agreed to consider the trial proposal. However, there are conditions. What conditions? First, the proposal must be voted on by the full council within 7 standard days. Second, if approved, the trials must begin within 30 days. Third, both sides must select their champions immediately upon approval with no changes allowed. Lisa nodded. Those seem reasonable. Veximer stepped closer to the table. There is a fourth condition. The human who brought this proposal must return to the sacred chamber to receive the final decision. If the answer is no, she will be executed as a symbol of failed negotiation. The weight of those words hit Lisa like a physical blow. She had expected to die coming here, but somehow surviving the first meeting had made her forget the danger. Now she faced another death sentence. I accept, she said without hesitation. Zekthis tilted its head. You do not fear death. I fear what happens to my species if I don't try everything possible to save them. Lisa replied. The alien commander made soft clicking sounds that might have been approval. This attitude supports your claims about human sacrifice and honor. When will you vote? Lisa asked. The High Command meets tomorrow. All 7 sector governors and the Supreme Arbiter must participate. The decision will be final and binding. Lisa carefully closed the metal case containing the nuclear warhead. May I take this back to Earth? Yes, Zekthis said. It has served its purpose here. Your honesty about human capability and restraint has been noted. Veximer moved to escort Lisa from the chamber, but Zekthis stopped them. One more question. If your species accepts the trial and loses, will you submit peacefully to Zephyrian rule? Lisa thought about the billions of humans on Earth and the scattered colonies still holding out against alien attacks. If the trials are conducted honorably and we lose fairly, yes. We will submit rather than continue fighting a war we cannot win. And if you win, will humans seek revenge for the colonies you have lost? No, Lisa said firmly. We will seek peace and healing. Revenge only creates more suffering. Zekthis made those soft clicking sounds again. Your species continues to surprise me. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Lisa took one last look around the crystal walls and alien architecture. This place had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations for thousands of years. Now it might decide humanity's fate. Commander, she said to Zekthis, why are you considering this trial? You could simply vote to destroy us and be done with it. The alien was quiet for a long moment. Because in all our history, no species has ever brought us a weapon they refused to use. Your nuclear device represents something we have never encountered before. What's that? Power constrained by wisdom, strength guided by honor. Perhaps. These are qualities worth preserving in the galaxy. Veximer made disagreeable clicking sounds but said nothing. As they walked back through the living corridors of the Zephyrian ship, Lisa felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. In 7 days, she would learn whether humanity would face trial by combat or immediate destruction. Either way, the next few weeks would determine whether humans continued to exist as a free species or became footnotes in galactic history. The future balanced on the edge of an alien decision, and all she could do was wait. Lisa sat in the same chair she had occupied 7 days ago aboard the New Horizon. The metal case containing the deactivated nuclear warhead rested on the table before her, but this time she was not alone. Admiral Jake Williams stood by the window, watching the stars while Dr. Helen Davis reviewed data on her portable computer. The Zephyrian response signal just came through, Dr. Davis announced. They're transmitting on the diplomatic frequency. Admiral Williams turned from the window. Put it through the main speakers. The familiar musical voice of Zekthis filled the room, speaking in carefully pronounced English. To the human delegation and Captain Lisa Morgan. The Zephyrian High Command has reached a decision regarding your trial proposal. Lisa felt her heart racing. Everything humanity had worked for during 3 years of war came down to the next few words. By a vote of 5-3, the High Command accepts the ancient right of trial by combat of civilizations. The trials will commence in 28 standard days at the neutral worlds designated by tradition. Dr. Davis let out a breath she had been holding. Admiral Williams closed his eyes in relief. Lisa felt dizzy with sudden hope. Zekthis continued speaking. However, there are specific conditions that must be met. Each side will select 5 champions to represent their civilization in the 5 trials. Champions must be chosen within 14 days and cannot be changed once selected. The trials will be observed by neutral parties from both civilizations. Furthermore, the alien voice went on, Captain Lisa Morgan must return to the sacred chamber to formally accept these terms on behalf of humanity. This acceptance carries personal risk as failure in the trials will result in her execution, along with the other human champions. Admiral Williams stepped forward. Lisa, you don't have to go back there. We can send someone else to accept the terms. No, Lisa said firmly. I started this process and I need to finish it. The Zephyrians respect courage and consistency. Sending someone else now would look like weakness. Dr. Davis looked up from her computer. I've been analyzing the historical records of Zephyrian trials. Only one species has ever attempted this challenge, and they lost badly. The Karathi were defeated in 4 out of 5 trials. What happened to them? Lisa asked. They were allowed to relocate to distant worlds as agreed, but they never recovered their independence. They still exist as a client state of the Empire. Admiral Williams sat down across from Lisa. Our military analysts have been studying the trial structure. Combat and strategy we can handle. Our people are good fighters and planners. But survival, sacrifice, and truth are harder to prepare for. What do we know about the trial locations? Lisa asked. Dr. Davis scrolled through her data. 5 different worlds, each chosen to test specific qualities. The combat trial takes place on a world with extreme gravity and thin atmosphere. Strategy happens in a virtual reality environment that can simulate any battlefield. Survival is conducted on a planet with hostile weather and dangerous wildlife. And the other 2. Sacrifice requires champions to choose between personal safety and mission success under extreme pressure. Truth involves some kind of mental probe that can detect lies and deception. Lisa thought about the humans she knew who might serve as champions. We need people who represent the best of humanity, not just our strongest fighters. General Chris Murphy wants to assign military specialists for all 5 trials, Admiral Williams said. But you're right, this isn't just about winning fights. Over. The next hour, they discussed potential champions. For combat, they chose Captain Ben Rogers, a Marine who had survived the siege of New Sydney. For strategy, Dr. Susan Clark, a tactical analyst who had planned several successful colony evacuations. For survival, they selected Ranger Jake Thompson, who had lived for months alone on hostile worlds. The sacrifice trial was more difficult to plan for. It's about choosing others over yourself, Lisa said. We need someone who has already proven they'll risk everything for people they care about. Nurse Amy Foster, Dr. Davis suggested. She stayed behind during the evacuation of New Melbourne to care for wounded civilians. She was captured by Zephyrian forces but survived 6 months in prison. For the truth trial, they needed someone with absolute integrity. Father Daniel Cross, Admiral Williams proposed. The priest who negotiated safe passage for refugees from 3 different colonies. Even the Zephyrians respected his honesty during prisoner exchanges. Lisa nodded approval. Those 5 represent different aspects of humanity's strength. Combat skill, strategic thinking, survival instinct, willingness to sacrifice, and commitment to truth. Dr. Davis received another message on her computer. The Zephyrians are requesting immediate confirmation of our acceptance and our champion selections. Send the names, Lisa said, and tell them I'll return to the sacred chamber tomorrow to make the formal acceptance. Admiral Williams looked concerned. Are you sure about this, Lisa? If our champions fail, you die along with them? Lisa picked up the metal case containing the nuclear warhead. If our champions fail, humanity becomes a slave species anyway. At least this way we have a chance to remain free. The next day, Lisa found herself once again in the crystal chamber on the alien moon. This time, more Zephyrians were present. She recognized Zekthis and Vexamur, but there were 5 other aliens she had not seen before. They wore different markings and stood with the authority of high rank. At the center of the group was an ancient Zephyrian whose exoskeleton showed the scars of many battles. Its compound eyes were clouded with age, but still sharp with intelligence. "I am High Arbiter Thexquan," the ancient alien said in a voice like wind through metal. "I speak for the Empire in all matters of honor and tradition." Lisa bowed respectfully. "I am Captain Lisa Morgan, speaking for humanity." "The terms have been set," Thexquan continued. 5 trials, 5 champions each, neutral observation. Victory grants independence and formal recognition. Defeat means permanent subjugation. "Do you accept these conditions?" "I accept on behalf of my species," Lisa said clearly. "Are you prepared to stake your life on the outcome?" "I am," Thexquan studied her with those ancient eyes. "Why do you personally accept this risk?" "You could remain safely on Earth while others fight for your species." Lisa thought about her brother Danny and all the other humans who had died in this war. "Because leadership means sharing the risks you ask others to take. If I'm not willing to die for this chance at peace, I have no right to ask our champions to risk their lives." The ancient alien made soft clicking sounds that might have been approval. "This attitude honors the trial tradition. The first trial begins in 26 days. Are your champions prepared?" "They will be." Zekthis stepped forward. "There's one more thing. Some members of our high command believe this trial is unnecessary. They would prefer immediate elimination of the human threat. But others believe your species may have qualities worth preserving," Thexquan added. "The nuclear demonstration and your personal courage have created debate among our leaders." Lisa looked around at all the Zephyrian officials watching her. "What would convince the skeptics?" "Victory in the trials," Vexamur said bluntly. "Nothing less will prove human worthiness." "Then we'll win," Lisa said with more confidence than she felt. As she prepared to leave the chamber, Thexquan called out to her, "Captain Morgan. In my 1,000 years of life, I have seen many species rise and fall. Most die because they cannot adapt or learn from their mistakes. Your species brought us a weapon of mass destruction and explained why you stopped using it. This suggests an unusual capacity for growth and wisdom." Lisa paused at the chamber's entrance. "We're still learning and growing. The trials will show you how far we've come." 3 weeks later, Lisa stood on the bridge of the New Horizon as both human and Zephyrian fleets gathered around the first trial world. 5 champion ships from each side formed ceremonial formations in space. While observer vessels took positions at safe distances, the combat trial would begin in 6 hours. Captain Ben Rogers was already in his fighter, running final system checks. The other champions waited on nearby ships for their turns in the coming days. "Signal from the Zephyrian flagship," the communications officer announced. "They're ready to begin." Lisa activated the ship's broadcasting system to speak to all the human vessels. "This is Captain Morgan to all ships. Today we begin trials that will determine humanity's future. We carry no weapons of mass destruction, just our courage and the hope for peace." She paused and looked at the metal case sitting in its place of honor on the bridge. 3 years ago, we fought because we had no choice. Today we fight for the right to choose our own destiny among the stars. Win or lose, we face these trials with honor. We fight not to destroy our enemies, but to prove we deserve to exist alongside them. As the first trial began, Lisa watched the combat fighters descend toward the hostile world below. The future of humanity rode with them, along with the hope that wisdom could triumph over force. In her final log entry before the trials, she wrote, "I carried no weapon into their sacred chamber, just a deactivated nuke and a message about human nature. Sometimes the greatest weapon is the wisdom to know when not to fight. Today we find out if that wisdom is enough to save us all."